In 1985, we had Mr. Tom Heflin was here. Mr. Phil Murray, 1995. Mr. George Lear, right around here, 1998. Mr. Todd Bender, Hall of Famer in 1999. Mr. Al Naylor in 2004. Also along with him is Mary D. Cisco in 2004.
No, I'm not.
2005. Hall of Fame inductee. Mr. Fred Parsons was inducted in 2010. Susan Desai, 2013, Hall of Fame inductee. And Mr. Kevin Lowry in 2016, and in 2019, inductee was Mr. Sam Armstrong. Thank you guys for coming. We'll show you the great Boler Award. In 2000, was Mr. Ron Wilson. Where is he at? Mr. Chris Magnard in 2005. Mr. Lucas Terry here in 2015. Mr. Kevin Kett in 2016. In 2017, Mr. Al Magnard was inducted.
No, you're all right. You're okay. You're out of shot. You're okay. No, all right.
Phil Murray was inducted in 2019. And Mr. John Bradley in 2021. And our record in 2019 that was put on the wall with no.
I'll sit over there, I think. Because he's sitting there, isn't he? I don't know where Pat. No, I'll sit there.
Mr. Mike Hammond Sr. and his wife Sandy are here. We have members here to be recognized. Chief John Bradley.
You're safe, Clay. Don't worry. You're safe.
And I think what all
Ranch, what's this one?
Italian?
Yeah, I'll try that, please.
You want the ranch or the Italian?
Italian.
Okay.
Looks like a lamp. I need to rub it.
Okay, our NSSA staff is Alicia Thompson. Where is she at? Miss Nikki Bowers is here. And Amber Short. Okay, at this time, we'll have our invocation. We'll have our dinner, and then we'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know nobody started meeting yet, so we'll go ahead and take prayer. I guess maybe no, we're going to move the prayer earlier and the presentation. Everybody, please bow your head. Dear God, thank you for giving us this opportunity to gather here tonight. Thank you for protecting us as we travel and for providing the way to meet, compete, and socialize. As we begin our banquet, we dedicate this time to you. We pray for the members, inductees, staff, and volunteers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and meet up. We'll, after dinner, we'll start our ceremony. Thank you.
Middle with a 0.9746 average. I believe the doctor. Okay, I don't think doctor's here. I think he's already picked it up. I believe. Is that correct? Okay. We're going to go into our NSSA, NSCA, all-around gun club. Okay. So I'm going to need to get this flag back for the NSCA banquet. But the NSSA, NSCA all-around gun club this year was the Greater Houston Sports Club.
No, you're all right. You're okay.
Now then,
Probably best I was staying up.
NSSA Club of the Year, Dallas Gun Club. And I do not know who's accepting for that. I guess I can.
You all right?
I'm a member. So. Yeah. Yeah, they'll be tickled to death that I got this. I don't know if they'll ever see it. Okay. Okay, we're going to recognize the clubs of the year. So we have our small clubs, which are 1 to 3 fields. And our first gun club is the Mars Skeet Range in Alabama, accepted by Ronald Osmond. Okay. Our second one is Cosford Shooting Grounds in England, accepted by Mr. Nick Marsden. There you go. And then we have our Terrell Rifle and Pistol Club, accepted by David Cudia, and that's here in Texas. That's already been picked up, so we are going with that. We go to our intermediate clubs, 4 to 7 fields. And our first club is Lock Raven Skeet and Trap, and that's going to be accepted by Alessandro Vitali. Our second club is San Augustine Rod and Gun Club, accepted by Mr. Michael Dowling. That's in Florida. And our Ludlow Fish and Game Club from Massachusetts, accepted by James Hughes. Okay, we have our large clubs, which are 8 and over on the fields. Our first one in North Carolina, Fort Bragg Clay Target Center. North Carolina, accepted by Tim Hyman. Mr. Hyman is all the way in the back.
Oh, been there.
Oh, yeah. I can shoot. All right. His lovely wife, Linda, is going to accept that award. Okay. For Georgia, Forest City Gun Club, accepted by Jackie Allman. Cardinal Shooting Center in Ohio, accepted by whom is We don't have it. We'll get that to you, Mike. Okay, so that takes care of our clubs. We're going to move on to the High Average Leader Awards. And we're going to begin with the HOA. So the HOA this year was won by Mr. Riley Chaddock with a 9918 average. I've got plenty of time. I'm going to give you a chance to get back. Okay, here we go. See the sideboard. So that's your HOA winner. Also, Riley is your 20 gauge high average leader with a 9955. 12 gauge. Wait, I'm sorry. Let's start again. He's our 12 gauge high overall average winner with a 9985. Okay, now, 20 gauge high overall average leader with a 9956, Mr. Houston Desatel. Houston is also your 28 gauge high average leader with a 9946. Very good job. Okay, this year's 410 Boler high overall average leader with a 9836, Mr. Josh Poole. And there's Josh putting on the sideboard. Congratulations, Josh. And this year's doubles high average leader, 9875 average for Mr. Todd Bender.
Told me to come up. Bender's getting some beer.
So this is not Todd Bender.
Yay, Todd!
All right. This year's lady HOA average leader with the 9816 average, Miss Lauren Burge.
Todd! Yay!
All right. Now next event tonight is honoring the referee honor roll. Our first honoree is Mr. Jerry Provost from Copper's Cove. Jerry has been a master referee for more than 20 consecutive years, joining a handful of referees that number of years as well is master referee. In 2018, Jerry was selected as referee of the year by his fellow master referees, and over the years, Jerry could be seen working at shoots anywhere from Seattle to Savannah. with numerous stops in between. Until Jerry's leg issues interrupted him, he was an annual fixture at the Masters for better than a dozen years. This past year, trying to work his way back into conditioned refereeing, Jerry volunteered his service by spotting the first spot shoot field, and additionally, he is a legend with family and friends with his Texas barbecue. Kind of hurts my feelings, Jerry, but do we have something from you? Oh, there you go. Gotcha. Thank you, Jerry, very much. Jerry also does smoked oysters and candy, which I do. All right. Our next referee honor is Bill Willett from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Now, Bill, with his 30-plus years of refereeing and well over 1 million targets refereed, has made him well known in the Skeet community. For not just the amount and quality of his pulls, but by the truly professional manner with which he refereed. Having worked a dozen mini world shoots, Bill is a 9-time master referee. In 2013, he was voted Referee of the Year by his fellow master referees. And in addition to the world shoot, he has worked shoots all throughout zones 2, 3, and 4. Some of the shoots are Mid-American, Loco in St. Joe, Indiana, the North-South, and Harry Wright in Maryland, Great Eastern, Fuller, Elite in Virginia, and the Masters in both North Carolina and Georgia, plus many shoots from the eastern side of Pennsylvania to the western end. Part of Bill's comment when asked to update his profile was, "My years of experience and being mentored by those on the wall today are a fair recognition of my ability to perform this job in a truly professional manner. The sport of Skeet has given me a true understanding of the game of life and true sportsmanship." So we honor Bill Willett. He's going back to Bill. Okay, our next referee on roll, Mr. Doug Steve. In April of this year, we lost Doug to the complications of cancer. Though the quick work and understanding of Steve Malcolm, the day before his passing in April, Doug's Wall of Honor plaque with his family by his side was temporarily delivered to him. Despite being heavily sedated, Doug was able to smile in acknowledgement of this honor. From Steve Malcolm, the family was truly appreciative of the honor of Hall of Fame Wall of Honor Committee bestowing on him, and was aware that since Doug has never made it to the world, he might not normally be eligible, but as Steve explained, when someone is as worthy as Doug, guidelines can be bent. On a personal note from Steve, thank you for recommending Doug. It meant a lot to me to be involved in some small way. Doug has a very outstanding resume of more than 50 years of service as a referee. He has refereed nearly every major shoot in Canada and the northeastern United States. shoots include the 3-1 in Peoria, the Bluegrass in Kentucky, more than 30 New York State shoots, plus more Canadian Open championships than he remembers. Additionally, Doug has refereed 50 consecutive Ontario Opens and over 40 Capital of Canada shoots, and the U.S. Opens in both New York and Pennsylvania. He has been named Referee of the Year in both New York and Ontario. Doug's impressive resume also includes refereeing the Olympics in Montreal in 1976 and the Commonwealth Games in Alberta. Here tonight to officially accept Doug's award on behalf of the family is Jennifer O'Brien. Boler Award, which is John. I'm going to stand back here. John Houck is being presented by John Renaglia and Al Magyar. So John, if you guys would come up, and Al, we'll be presenting Mr. John Houck. Cut this way, Elvis.
Thank you, Billy Ray. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. It's a wonderful turnout for a wonderful group of people. Our congratulations to Andrea, Jason, and Rick, and they will be attended to later in the program. My job tonight, a bit unenviable, or enviable, as you may see, because how do you describe 25 years of service that John Houck has given? We tend to group things in the categories A, B, or C, and airplanes and boats and cars are all accoutrements that John Houck has had access to as a result of the hardest working guy I've ever met, and a very successful businessman who, fortunately, aside from being into all of those things, chose to be involved and interested and really get into Skeet. And we are all the better for it. When we talk about the game of Skeet, we see the people like Mays and Eugen Ellis and Bender and Ricky Pope. And unfortunately, John Houck is not in that crew. He chose to take another route, and it's good for all of us. Being into Skeet as he was never in my DNA other than to meet John by chance 21 or 22 years ago. And never would have thought at that point in time that this guy would have excelled in the game, but he sure as hell excelled in the support of the association. It's guys like him, our beloved and deceased Hal DuPont, Louise Terry, that make this Ray Boler Award as serious and as important as any high two or low eight that you've ever shot. Having the privilege of knowing John for 20-some years, I would have to say there's not a better guy to do the job. In order to chronologically chronologically give you some idea of his years of service, the devotion, and the absolute, utter love of the game. I'm going to give you to Al Magar, who's going to chronicle that. John, congratulations. Here's Al.
Thanks, Rex. Oh, great. Okay. I thought I'd bring up an iPad, you know, so I don't look so old and everything, and the battery's dead. So. Trish just said my battery died a long time ago. I met John in the late 90s. You know, John was out of Cleveland. I'm, of course, out of Detroit. And he was always, I'm going to say, hanging around with the fast crowd. By that time, you know, I had slowed down quite a bit. And he was with Larry Wu and all the guys. And I always thought, you know, John was such a nice guy when I talked to him. And but I never really got to know him. And then he started sponsoring a shoot in Canton that we would go to, and we would stay at his house. Our whole squad would stay at his house. And he's just an honest, great guy. And the thing about the Ray Boler, that, you know, you can look in the averages and see what Bender did, what Jason did 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and realize why they were put in the Hall of Fame. The Ray Boler was service. It's really hard unless you're on the inside to know what these guys have done. And, you know, I am intimately knowledgeable about guys like Chet Kreitz, who helped buy the property that we shoot at right now back in the 60s. Howard Comfort, who made the specs that the target manufacturers finally had to do a certain weight, a certain size, so we would have better targets. Louise, her organizational skills are unbelievable, and what she did for the finances of the association are just unbelievable. And John, a couple things that come to mind that I want to bring to the people that might not know is in 2017, when he was president, the brothers on the other side of the aisle are sporting clay shooters. There were some on their executive council that thought it would be a great idea to break off on their own and run their own organization. And you know, that had been talked about for quite a few years, but it finally came to a head where they had the votes to do that. So John was president, of course, and he made numerous trips here from California. He had moved to California, and he met with these guys, and he told them the pros and the cons, and finally convinced the majority of them that we were better together than apart. And then shortly after that, the next year, he helped Louise and other people change our bylaws, so that's not going to happen down the road. And that's something a lot of people don't know, but if they would have split off from us, we would have survived, but on a lot smaller scale, and wouldn't be able to do a lot of things we're doing now. So that is on John's shoulders. And the other thing is the endowment fund that is now started. If anybody was at the opening ceremony, they saw the big check from Desitoff's. John this had been a pet project of his for, I don't know, at least 3-4 years that I know of, that he talked to me about it. And it's unbelievably complex. When you have a 501c3 and Texas rules and federal rules, I mean, he met with attorneys, just him and Don Keller was co-chair. They worked tirelessly for at least 3 years and finally started taking funding this year, early in the year, and now we have at least, I believe, 9 founding members in Founding Circle, and looking for more. And I'm not going to give any details on it, but see Don or John, and it is a fund that is solely for what you want in our game. If you like juniors, the money will stay going to those programs. If you like ladies, if you like the Hall of Fame, the building, that's what it will go to. And it doesn't go in a big fund in the EC or headquarters administers. This is all done by the committee, the Endowment Fund Committee, which is a standalone committee. And their goal is to do whatever the donators want with that money. So please, if you're interested, you know somebody interested, call John or call Don. And I guess I'll end it, for these reasons. There's many others, but like I say, my battery's dead. I would like to introduce the newest member of the NSSA Hall of Fame, Ray Boler recipient, John Howell.
Going to bring up about 20 pages of notes because I know you like to hear these speeches. But again, I'd like to congratulate Rick Lowry and Jason Ward and Andrea Lear for their accomplishments and going to be inducted this evening also. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee and the EC for permitting me to have this award. And a special thanks to my wife Stephanie, who is not here, but she has endured the many hours that I have spent with the promulgating all the things that we do for Skeet. And with that, I can't tell you how honored I am to have this award, and it pleases me. And with that, thank you.
We appreciate your work. We certainly do. All right, we're going into the Hall of Fame inductees now. For Andrea Lear will be inducted tonight, and she is going to be presented by Louise Terry. So Miss Terry will come up. She really promised it would be short. I don't know.
Dallas Gun Club. Glove of the year. I get him shaped up. Okay, everyone, good evening. I got a cold, so pardon me if I start to cough. But it's a very special night, especially for me and for Andy. I already congratulated Jason. I'm not sure, Jason, where are you here? Because I don't know Jason as well as the other guys. But, and it's well deserved and it's great. But three of my favorite shooting buddies are the other three inductees tonight. John Howe, I'm so glad for you and congratulations. It's very well deserved. We've worked together on a lot of things over the last 15 or 20 years, and you earned it, and it's wonderful. And Rick, I'm glad that they finally let you out of Canada so you could be here tonight. That's a long time coming. And then Andy. So when Andy asked me to introduce her tonight, I quickly said, sure, I'd love to, because after all, she and I have known each other and have shot together for over 40 years. But after I agreed to do that, I'll tell you honestly, I started thinking about how the hell I was actually going to do it and what I was going to be able to say. So when we first talked about it, she said, well, you can just roast me, that'll be okay. And I thought about that and I thought, no way, Andy. There are things about you that I know that these people don't even want to know. So we're not going to do the roast thing. That isn't going to cut it. That's not a good idea. So I thought about it a little bit more, and I really struggled with it, and I couldn't figure out why I was having such a hard time deciding how to do this, and then it dawned on me one day. The problem is there are really two Andys, and the first one, usually, unfortunately, is the one that a lot of people know if they don't know Andy well. That's the Andy that can be a little too quick sometimes to tell you exactly what she thinks with little regard for anything else. In fact, I finally decided after all these years, you know, I think there's a little circuit somewhere between your brain and your mouth that's supposed to be sort of a filter, a discretionary filter. And it's the one that thinks that you should think about things before you say them. Well, in Andy's case, I think that circuit shorts out very frequently. But people who don't know her don't get it. So the other amazing part about it, though, is when she's doing this with people, as she's giving them her opinion, more than half the time she's right, which is what really ticks people off, because they just don't want to hear it. And as we all know, the truth hurts. But the second Andy is the one that we're here to recognize tonight. She's fun, she's hardworking, she's sincere, she is outspoken, but she's also loyal and she's very dedicated. And she's proven over her lengthy career that she is a championship skeet shooter. So we're going to talk about the second Andy tonight. My dad was the one that first introduced me to Andy. He knew Andy's first husband, Mike, when Mike was working for Remington. And we were at, when I had started to shoot again in the 76, 77 time frame, we were at a shoot in upstate New York, one of the small local shoots. And Dad introduced me, Mike and Andy were there. And she was shooting Remington 3200. Now, all my Remington friends here, Jay and Jimmy and everybody, don't take offense, but that damn gun seemed like it weighed 12 pounds. And I kept thinking, I don't know how the hell she's ever going to do this, but she was very persistent and had a lot of perseverance. And she did work very hard at it, and she got to shoot better and better. Shot a lot of local leagues, shot a lot of practice, and steadily improved. So after a couple of years of that, and we got to know each other better, and we were shooting practice together. In 1979, our squad decided we had to get a little more serious about our shooting because we were getting sick of shooting all these little local shoots at places like, where's Tom Heffern? At places like Groton, Norwich, real garden spots. So we decided we're going down the road. If we're going to go big, we got to go big. So Andy and Mike and Bill and I, and our squad lead-off guy at that time was a guy named Dick Becker from Rochester Brooks. And we got together and we drove out to Chardon, Ohio, and attended the Mid-America. That was our first big shoot away from home. Well, that was back when the Mid was a rotating shoot every year in late May, early June. And it was a very memorable experience for all of us. It was the first time really that we'd seen people we'd been reading about in the magazines. Dave Sterrett and Connie and Ira Place and Dick Nowes, who at that time was the 12-gauge long run record holder, Maxine Wright, Carla Roberts. First time we ever saw anybody playing Boler. They had the front porch there, were all very busy all weekend actually. So that trip in 1979 marked the beginning really of our serious ski careers for both Andy and for me. And it's a road which 43 years later led her here tonight. In between those years, that's when the second Andy really emerged. She and Mike won their first world title when we went to Savannah. So we went to the mid in 79. Now we were really ready to go for it. We went to Savannah in 1980 to the World Shoot in July. It was about 172 down there, or it felt like it. And we were still shooting the 410 first in those days. So the first gun out of the chute, Andy and Mike are at a shoot-off with two other couples for the 410 husband and wife, and they won. The other teams, the other couples were much more established, experienced shooters. So this was really quite an upset. And of course, this got Andy more fired up than ever immediately and convinced her that she really could do this. So 2 years later, in 1982 in Savannah, she shot off and won the Ladies World Doubles title. That was her first individual world gold. Then at the 84 World Shoot in San Antonio, there were about, I think 6 or 7 gals that had hundreds in the 20 gauge. I was watching from the sidelines with my 99. But she was the only woman to complete the first box. That was when we had to shoot singles and we were shooting all the whole front fields, and it went on, and everybody had to finish, see who finished out the first round. But you had to walk all the way out to Station 8. It was a long walk because everybody else in her squad had passed out by Station 5. So we all waited, and finally Andy was 20 gauge ladies world champ. That was 1984. She was named subsequently to 12 ladies All-American teams over the years. She shot her way onto the podium a number of times at the World Skeet Shoot and never was one to give up. And so 24 years later, in 2008 in San Antonio, proving she really wasn't done yet, she again won the Ladies World 20 gauge title. And over her 4-decade career, she won over 40 New York State ladies titles. And with George, they won 30 years worth of husband and wife New York and Zone 1 titles. She's also won her share of ladies titles at the Zone 1 championships, including a career highlight for her in 2002 when she ran her first 100 straight in the 410, and she finished up Zone 1 Open runner-up. She was inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame in 1995, and she also received a very special distinction when she was inducted into the Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. This was a local recognition of all different sports in her hometown area, a place near where Mike and Victoria Furchild come from now, where Andy had grown up. And she's the only person, male or female, to ever be honored with this membership in this organization from her hometown area to represent the shooting sports, which is pretty cool. That's a nice distinction. So now, joining George as a member of this Hall of Fame, also I want to point out that the Lears are only the 4th husband and wife couple to have accomplished this for their respective shooting accomplishments. Kathy and Kathy Sedlecki were inducted in different years, but in late 1970s. You remember, did you ever know Doug and Margaret Burdett? Doug and Maggie Burdett were inducted together on the same night here in 1981. And then John Dinning still holds a unique distinction because he's in the Hall of Fame with both of his wives. So, George, you got a little more work to do here. But with all of that, that's a really, really cool thing for you guys. And I'm also very pleased that tonight, with Andy and Rick going in, our old squad of years is all in the Hall of Fame. George and Andy, Ricky, Craig Parsons, and me. So this is pretty cool for us. So it's my great pleasure tonight to introduce Andy, my friend and my squad mate of all those years. Come on up and get your medal. You have your medal? Down there.
A mini roast. Where do we put this? Oh my God. Turn my 20-gauge speech upside down. Somebody left their glasses here. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot, Weezy. You only reinforced something George has said for years. At any rate, he had a skeet shooter, a clay shooter, and a trap shooter walk into a bar. Whoops, wait a minute. Wrong skeet. No one here knows how I cried like a baby during Budweiser commercials, especially Christmas. So this ball is for you. First, I'd like to congratulate everyone being honored tonight. And thanks to the Hall of Fame Committee for finding a space on the wall to hang me, excuse me, hang my picture. It's indeed an honor. Thanks also for selecting Rick Lowry. He's a little late getting here, but now, as Lisa mentioned, our entire squad is in the Hall of Fame. I think that is pretty Many years ago, when Kathy Sedlick was involved in the Hall of Fame process, she told me I needed to go in to be inducted. And I told her, that's for when you're over the hill. Guess what? Here I am. My long career has included a few trips to the winner's circle, but while I love to talk about shooting, that doesn't include my own. Very uncomfortable, so that's why, But I agree with Todd Bender when he told this group a few years ago that the 70s, 80s, and 90s were the best years of Skeet, the golden age. How about July World Shoots, as Weezy mentioned, 130 degrees. Single shoot-offs took forever. Single stack Winchester machines. We're doing a little trivia here. Hotly contested team events. Montreal, both clubs. Lake Placid. The Shrimp Bowl. Fresno, the Gateway. The North-South. The Bluegrass, and my old Kentucky home. Black Hawk Indians. The Blues Brothers, I think I'm doing this. The Slut Sisters. No Ellen. I put that one in an article and they said, I said, go to the Hall of Fame Museum. There's no Ellen. Upside down margaritas. Handwritten scoreboards. Industry class. Jimmy. The Bitches Bench. Boat rides, Calcuttas, dancing all night in hotel bars. They had music back then. We stayed. Dirty jokes with ice cream on the side. And Wayne May's watermelon with dirty jokes on the side. Ammo by the case, 20 boxes for 30 bucks. Just a few memories. Back then, there were some guys who refused to shoot with girls on the squad when I started. Too much whining, crying, drama. But you know, we ladies, we just ignored them. And now the slogan is, shoot like a girl if I can. I'm totally blown away by the present day lady shooters. The smoke targets, the scores, the bar has definitely been raised, and I love it. Each arrow is different, but the competition is the same, but not all encompassing, or a shooter like me who is way past their expiration date would have quit years ago. So we had some great shoots, not to mention some great clubs that are also long gone. I miss both Lordship and Lincoln Park. And I sent in pictures and they didn't put them up so you guys could see them. But only wish that all of today's younger shooters could have seen these clubs, could have shot these fields, and could have just experienced the awesome. At Lordship, your entry fee included Remington ammo, and the prizes were guns and silver trophies, which filled several tables and an entire wall. No money returned, but what do you want for $25 a 100? Lordship started double shoot-offs back in the 70s, probably to save money on ammo. They were supplying the ammo except for when Louise Terry, and she's left, shot red shells. There was no official double event at that time, but the rule book had hard work, but Skeet should be fun. Running great scores, winning titles, they're all fun. To quote one of my favorite writers, P.J. O'Rourke, it's fine to leave behind a body of good work, but it's the good fun they'll be talking about over your body. So it all comes down to 410. When you head out tomorrow for the last event at yet another world shoot, good luck, do your best, and keep it fun. Thank you.
Obviously, this game's hard on marriages. Oh yeah, they just offer more opportunity, that's correct. She's pinched me on the butt so many times I can't hardly sit down sometimes, so. All right, so we're gonna go into our next person we're inducting into the Hall of Fame. And presenting him will be Mr. Cliff Boler, and we're going to be introducing Mr. Jason Ward, which in our part of the country call him a good old boy.
Ditto and congratulating all the award winners tonight. No shooter gets inducted into the Hall of Fame without a long list of accomplishments. And I know you all are just dying to hear every damn one of them. Lucky for you, I'm not here for that. When I talk about Jason Ward, I think about his shooting style / form. His barrel effortlessly moves through space like an eagle gliding in the wind, seemingly suspending time. It's like watching the hypnotizing stroke of a calligraphist. It's poetry in motion, except Jason's it's if Jason's gone brain dead canvas is a Skeet field. I cannot help but to feel jealous about this. He's the artist and I'm the dreamer who wants to shoot just like him. And I have yet to mimic him. So few people have accomplished this art form. In the past, I think of Craig Kirkman, who was the smoothest shooter ever, and now I'm seeing it in Riley Chaddick. I think this is Jason's biggest shooting accomplishment. Everything else is just inevitable history. Jason got hooked on shooting when he was 8, when his family still lived in Houston. His gun was a single barrel hammer gun that kicked like a mule. When his parents felt that he had sufficiently suffered enough to become a good skeet shooter, they would buy him a Remington 1100 410. On his first tournament, he shot a 97. And remember, though, this was back in the days when hundreds and the 410 were not that common. And he was just devastated to find out that a 98 was a winning score. So there you go, boys and girls. Skeet, the game, the business of skeet is nothing less than brutal. And I think that we're all doomed to float down that river of tears to that great utopia in the sky called sporting clays, where your self-worth is not determined by the score you shoot. And I think in that world, it's a cool golf cart. Jason's family would eventually move out of Houston to a town in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Far, far away in a distant galaxy where there were no gun clubs. So his father would build him his own skeet field and buy him a Browning 410. Buy him a Browning 4-barrel set. And from that point on, it was game on. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's the most important detail, that his first 100 was shot in the 28 gauge at that great gun club at the end of the yellow brick road known as Greater Houston Gun Club. So just saying, good things happened there, and it is not too late to sign up for the Best of Texas in November. It's shameful what a person has to do now to get people to come to their shoots. The clock clicks, and Jason would soon learn that the years would fly by. An Olympic coach, through his involvement in 4-H shooting, would soon discover him, and poof, he disappears to the Olympic sports. 10 years later, he returns to NSSA Skeet. He would hook up with a couple world champions, Rocky Goodman and Art Sedaris, and shoot with them for many years, as well as shooting with all the Top Gun shooters there were. These, and I'm sure that he will have something to say about them later. These were the best of time for skeet in general, not only from the affordability perspective, but also from the abundance amount of extraordinary talent that was competing in those days. And as somebody earlier said, it was the golden age of skeet. Some of his accomplishments were, yes, he had 4-bys. There were 4-bys. Yes, there were world championships, 5 of them, and numerous runner-ups. Yes, there were a lot of tournament HOA championships and gun championships. There were 25 Open All-American teams, and my favorite of all time is 500 out of 500, a world record, 12-gauge targets, all having to be shot in one day. Finally, as we all try to make sense of the world we live in, all shooters question themselves about the sacrifices they made to shoot Skeet. If you would ask Jason what sacrifices he's made, or what regrets, mostly what regrets does he have, he would say, hell yeah, low 7 for a 4.99 when a 5-by paid $10,000. Jason, come up here and do your stuff.
Well, thank you, Cliff. Cliff doesn't like to do these kind of things, and I understand, and I kind of put him on the spot by asking him to do it, but for people that don't know, Cliff's always had a special place in my heart with Briley, and as a human being, he's always pulled me to this game and has helped me in so many directions. For one thing, people know Blauser. Cliff's responsible for that with me. And I've always known that. And he knows that. And a lot of y'all don't. You're making it public now. But Briley's always had my back. And even before him, Jess, I shot with Jess, actually two-manned with him. And then Cliff came along. Now we got John. And I think it's going to be the same. Thank you, Cliff, for doing this. The next thing, my mom and dad. As the pictures you can see, I was very young when I started, and they did so much sacrificing, taking me places, the money, everything else. Everybody knows what it costs. And Mom, thank you. She's sitting right there, Miss Linda. If y'all don't know her, please go ahead. And for those who don't know, I'm Leslie Ward's husband. And she hears it the other way a lot, so I always like to help her out. And thank you, sweetie, for being so supportive. She's pulled 1 million targets and heard a lot of complaints and a lot of attitude when I shouldn't have it. But, and through the good times and the bad. My close-knit family that lives right in our town, the Raleigh Chud, the Troy Barons, the Todd Chud, we have shot so much together and had such good times, barbecuing, shooting, practicing, doing our thing. It's a good deal. Cliff kind of went through this on the first squads and everything else. I started out with Rocky. Heck, most people thought he was my dad. We traveled so much together. My parents just kind of let him take me, and nowadays it would probably be strange that a man took another kid, but it was okay back then. And if anybody knows Rocky, you probably wondered. But no, it was a good deal. It was a good deal. And with Rocky, shot with Donnie Kaufman. Can't even think of his name right. That's terrible. And from there, went to Tim Gallagher and Randy Bates and Mary DiGiovanni and Mary Paxton now, Jack and Valerie Johnson. And shot international. When I got international, that's when I picked up Mike Schmidt. And we kind of bonded, and we did a lot of traveling together and shot together for about 20 years. I have a funny story about Mike. It was at the World Shoot 10 or 12 years ago. Trailers right next to each other. And if anybody knows Mike, he didn't get up early. He likes to sleep a lot. Bang, 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 bang. Thursday morning, World Shoot. Somebody's banging on my door. It's like, it's daylight. I'm like, what's going on? Open the door. It's Mike. Hey, what are you doing? Like, I was sleeping, but what's up? Let's make some coffee. Made coffee, and I could tell something was on his mind. I was like, what's going on here? He said, hey, what you got on your mind? He goes, I got something to tell you. It's like, okay. He goes, I'm going to win the 28 gauge today. I said, okay. He said, no, really, I'm not going to miss. He goes, I read it. Now, granted, that Saturday I had won the 28 gauge of the Mini. And I was like, well, do I fit into this equation at all, or is it just you? He goes, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not going to miss today. Well, later that night, I shook his hand. He won the 28 gauge. So I thought that was kind of special. And never had anybody do that, say it in the morning. And then it happened. But that's Mike in a nutshell. Last year, I got to mention this. I got to shoot with Bender, Clay, Ben, some Dirk. Our squad kind of mixed up. But it was an honor of mine to shoot with Bender. And I don't think he wins the doubles all around or whatever this year if he wasn't shooting behind me. I really don't think that would have happened. I mean, the first three shoot, he ran 300, bam, 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 and I go, this guy's never going to miss. And but anyway, it was a pleasure. Learned a lot. It's great. I want to thank the committee. Thank y'all so much. It's an honor. And I have one more little story, and then I'll end this. A lot of people ask me what is the greatest accomplishment, a shoot-off, or whatever should happen. And my mind always goes back to one thing. It was a state shoot, Waco, Texas, 10, 15 years ago. It might have even been 20. I don't know the exact date. In the doubles, not the doubles, the 12 gauge event, there was it was 3 fields, so somewhere in between 20 and 30 people ran hundreds that day. First box was over, it got down to like 8 of us. I'm on the field. We shoot, second box gets through, there's 3 of us. We get into the third box, it gets down to 2 people, and I finally miss. And that was one of the proudest days of my life. My brother won the state championship, and I was runner-up, and I get to stand beside him. That was his only championship, and it was cool. So, I know I haven't talked about everybody at the table, but if you ever get a chance, before shoot-offs, after shoot-offs, or whatever, to stand with Pat or Brandon, Clay, even Bender, all the guys, and to hear them tell stories and listen to the one-liners, it makes your shooting career that much better. So thank y'all, and I appreciate y'all.
All right, thank you, Jason. That was very great. Our next Hall of Fame inductee, sitting right down here, Mr. Rick Lowry, and he's going to be presented by Mr. Steve Malcolm. So, Steve, where are you? Oh, yeah, I never know where you are. Were you here a while ago? I thought you were over here. Okay, I'm good. Come on.
It's always nice to be memorable. Welcome everybody. I'm the NSSA Vice President, and on behalf of myself in that capacity, I'd like to say congratulations to all the honorees tonight from a referees category, our Ray Boler Award winner, and our shooters. What I'm really up here for tonight is a few weeks ago, Rick Lowry phoned me up and asked if I would be able to introduce him tonight, and I must say I was truly honored to do so. It's always a little bit nervous getting in front of a group of people, especially after hearing the speeches I've heard. Just as a point of order, I only have one page, okay? So I saw some of the other ones. So it's an honor for me to be up here. In actual fact, the first time that I actually met Rick was about 20 years ago in 2002. And I had just started to shoot. I just joined a gun club. I had not joined the NSSA. I had never shot registered targets. And I had no idea who Rick was. But our club's about 2 hours away from our Rick's business, Lowry Targets are. And I recall going out there, I got asked, because I was a salesman on the road, I was asked if I could go out and pick up some parts for some of our machines. We buy our targets and our equipment and ammunition from Rick's business. And I went out there, went into the office, and they said, oh, that stuff will be over in the other warehouse. So I went over, and some guy was driving around on a forklift, and he says, well, I'm just finishing loading up this truck. I'll be with you in a couple of minutes. And a couple of minutes later, this gentleman walked off the forklift and came over, and you know, he was wearing running shoes and some blue work pants and a blue t-shirt, a lot of it covered with orange paint. And he just jumped over and he says, oh, you know, my name's Rick, what can I do to help you? I said, I'm Steve Malcolm, I'm here from a gun club and I'm here to pick up parts. He says, well, just follow me. Now, he didn't say I'm Rick Lowry, I own this place, or I'm not, you know, any of this thing. He just says, I'm Rick. So I followed him. He says, come on with me to the office. And I went, this has got to be a pretty nice place. The forklift drivers have their own office. So I went into the office, and behind where Rick sat down is this picture of a guy with a nice white hat and some shooting glasses and this big medal around his neck. And I think it was a watch. Was it a watch back then? And he's standing there, and I go, is that you? And again, I'd never shot registered Skeet. I didn't know who the heck he was. And he says, yeah. I said, well, what's that for? He says, well, I won the world championship in 1995, 12 gauge. And this is a picture of me. And I'm going, holy crap, this is amazing. Like, you must be a great, you know, you must be great at this thing. And he goes, well, in the day, I could hang with the big shooters, okay? And he did. So I was pretty impressed, but that's him being humble, okay? He's a very humble champion, and that was something that was always impressive to me. Over the years, I've got to know Rick better, not so much as a shooter, but more from a business standpoint. Again, my club buys targets from Rick's business, so he's a supplier to not just our club, but hundreds around North America. He's also served as a sounding board to me because he's had some great experiences. Rick served as a director on the Ontario Skeet board for years. Subsequent to that, I ended up becoming, for a short time anyway, a real pleasurable experience as the president of the Ontario Skeet board, and in the NSSA as well. So I've oftentimes talked to Rick and just used him as a sounding board about what he thinks of ideas and experience and history and that sort of thing. One of the things that Rick did, and a lot of people that shoot at the caliber that Rick does or did, is that he volunteered an awful lot. The OSSA board, the NSSA board, and he represented Zone 8 in the executive committee. And in case you don't know, Zone 8 is what puts the world into the world shoot. I had to work that in, okay? Well, it said Zone 8. Okay, and but there's very few people, I think, that have had such a varied experience of being a top competitor, a supplier to our industry, and a volunteer. And he's just got a wealth of knowledge, and he's put his heart and soul into this industry, and now his family is taking it over as well in the industry. So thank you for that, Rick. I would like to point out one thing that's not in Rick's biography, that's in the program that you have tonight. I'm sure Rick's going to talk about some of his accomplishments from shooting, and it's in the biography. But one thing that was not in there is that in the year 2000, the Canadian Skeet Hall of Fame was created. And there were some pretty darn good shooters that made into the Canadian Hall of Fame. Rick was in the inaugural group of shooters that did that. So congratulations on that. And I just want to say that some of the people that were in that list of shooters are also NSSA, on the NSSA Wall of Fame. And some of the names I think you'll recognize: Barney Hartman, Paul Laporte, we were mentioned before, Doug and Margaret Burdette, and Harry Wilsey. So Rick, for you to be able to say that you're both a Canadian Hall of Fame and an NSSA Hall of Fame, with those folks and with the other champions that have been inducted tonight and in the past, it truly proves that you couldn't just hang with the big boys. You were one of the big boys. So congratulations.
Well, thank you for staying, folks. The last time I was up here was when George was inducted, and it was getting late at night, and there were very few people left that night, unfortunately. But everybody's looking a little lively. My wife timed me on my speech. It's only 9 minutes long, so you can all get out of here after that. Thank you, Steve, for your kind words, by the way, and also to the Hall of Fame Committee. The first Skeet club that I joined in the mid-70s was called the Mohawk Gun Club in Casterville, Ontario. And there are a few people in here that have shot there, and they can attest to the fact that it's probably one of the toughest gun clubs you'd ever want to shoot at. But there was a guy there who was a registered shooter. His name was Joe Patko. I think Al would know Joe Patko. Maybe Robert Paxton would know Joe Patko. But he gave me some very good advice. He said, Rick, if you want to be a better shooter, join the NSSA and shoot a cuts compensator in the 12 gauge. And I did, and it was great advice. So early on, I started shooting local shoots, mostly at places like Oshawa, Ontario, Uxbridge Shooting Sports, Kingston, and also the 3F Club in Lewiston, New York. But we also had a 400 target event, 410 event at the Mohawk Gun Club. And at that time, I had met my first world champion shooter. And I couldn't figure out why he would want to come to a small shoot. But as the years went by, I got the answer, because he was very dedicated and involved in the running of many tournaments. And a lot of those shoots I attended, and he has been over the years one of the driving forces in the NSSA, and he is here tonight. And if you don't know who I'm speaking about right now, I'm going to point him out. His name is Al Magyar. My first big tournament was the Motor State, Detroit Gun Club. What a thrill for a young shooter that not only was I there, but as a squad, I was on the squad with some of the top shooters at that time. And one of them was a Cosmic Cowboy by the name of Robert Paxton. As I shot with him, I watched him shoot the tournament. I realized the effort, dedication, and practice that was evident when he shot. Watching Robert was a great learning experience and motivation for me. My first world shoot, Savannah, Georgia. Drove 19 hours with Bob Mills, father of Gary Mills. One of Skeet's most entertaining personalities and a future two-man partner. I don't remember shooting very well, but it was a great learning experience. Now, my first world shoot in Texas, which wasn't too many years later, things got a little more serious. I managed to break 100 in the 410 on the first day, went into the shoot-off that night, and got into the fourth round, and eventually missed. And when I came off, people had said to me, you know, if you'd have done that any prior year before that, you would have won the World 410 Championship. But it went on into the next day to the fifth round, and Todd Bender was runner-up, and Dave Starrett was world champion. Now, at this time, I would like to mention some of my favorite or unique gun clubs. And Andy and Wheezy, you must have stolen my speech tonight, because it's in here. But anyway, the first one, I think I saw John Sheeman and Mike Searle here tonight as well. But my first one was Lincoln Park Traps. The Lincoln Park Traps was sandwiched between Chicago, Illinois on one side and Lake Michigan on the other. And I was involved in the wettest shoot-off I've ever been in. It was with one fellow that's here tonight. His name is Mike Searle. You stand up, Mike. Thank you very much. And if you recall that shoot-off, we had rain coming from above, and we had rain coming in front of us and sideways and whatnot. But it was the wettest shoot-off I was ever in. The second club, Andy, you've already mentioned it tonight, the Remington Gun Club. Great Eastern, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Beautiful place to shoot. Unfortunately, from what I understand, it's no longer there. But I was ever there one time, and I really did enjoy it. The third club, already been mentioned, the Jefferson Gun Club, Bluegrass. And you stole my line, Andy, because the guy would come out and sing My Old Kentucky Home prior to the shooting, and I always thought that was wonderful. Now, the fourth club, a lot of you probably have never heard of, Oshawa Skeet Gun Club. Some of the Canadian guys have probably shot there a few times. But it's a beautiful place to shoot. It's elevated, it's on the Oak Ridges Moraine. You can see for miles in either direction. But there is one problem with it. When the wind blows, it goes from this serene, beautiful place to what we call Hurricane Hill. Cayman Islands Gun Club. There are some people in here tonight who've probably been to the Cayman Islands Gun Club. Al's been there, I think, John, Mike Searle, whoever else, but a lot of fun there. We spent a whole week at a tournament. It's also where I became a certified scuba diver. The next club, National Capital. Great place to shoot. One of those clubs that I love to shoot at. Also got to know Nunzio Laterio there, who came up to hunt ducks with us one year, and we had a great time. But my most favorite club of all time, and I did meet somebody here from Maryland tonight, my favorite gun club of all time, Talbot Rod and Gun Club in Easton, Maryland. And one of the reasons I like to shoot there so much is because I do have a history of waterfowling, and the Chesapeake Bay area to me is a great area. And you go in restaurants there, they have wildfowl prints and everything. Also a decoy shop in downtown Easton, which is quite unique, and I visited many times when I was there. Anyway, in my shooting career, I was fortunate enough to shoot on 3 different squads. And this has had a profound effect on my shooting career. 3 people on the first squad. One was Doug Burdett, who has been mentioned tonight. Doug is no longer with us, but he was an All-American, a world champion, Hall of Famer, and a great coach. The second shooter is really not well known to most skeet shooters, but he's a fellow named Barry Turner. And Barry Turner was a double-A shooter, and a pretty good one. Broke 100 in the world shoot here with me. But Barry decided he wanted to go on and shoot trap. And he's still shooting today at the age of 70. But he became a double-A shooter, 27-yard handicap trap shooter. And I thought that was remarkable that somebody could be a double-A shooter in skeet and a double-A shooter in trap as well. The third shooter, Jim Butcher, one of my very best hunting and fishing friends, who sadly passed away at the age of 60. Moving on to the second squad, and they're all here tonight. George Lear, Andrea Lear, Craig Parsons, and Louise Terry. And I'll say a little bit about each one of them. George Lear, an excellent coach. Also had a HOA shoot-off with him, and I didn't know him, but if you recall, George, we had a HOA shoot-off at the Lewiston Gun Club. Never met you. You were very gracious. You kicked my butt, but you were very good about it, and I always appreciated that. Andrea Lear. I actually met Andy prior to that, back in the late 70s, at the Hamburg Gun Club. I don't know if she recalls that or not, but we were at the Hamburg Gun Club, and you had a different partner then. It was a dog named Shelly. But anyway, I have a second story about Andy. Now, I'm not sure if we've got the dates right because I heard Louise mention it tonight, but we were at the World Shoot in the 80s, and Andy and I have both run 120 gauge. We went on the field to shoot off, but my recollection of it is that we went another 100, or 75, got into the last round. The light was fading. We got all the way around to Station 8. We each broke the high house, and we were the only 2 people remaining on the squad that night. We got to low 8, and the light comes on in the low house, and they're loading the trap house. So I got up, inexperienced and anxious, broke the first target, missed the second one, so I was out. But anyway, Andy gets up with her experience, handled the whole situation, broke both targets, and then people came on the field to congratulate her that she had won LA's World 20 Gauge Championship. 82. That was one of the remarkable things about Andy, how tough of a shooter she was. Craig Parsons, a gentleman, one of the top shooters ever, as far as I'm concerned. And if they ever have to put another bust up of shooters wherever it is at the Houston Gun Club, Craig Parsons should be one of the people that's on it. Louise Terry. Am I making you all nervous there? No? I really didn't know what to say about Louise because there are so many things I could say about Louise. But she has been a lifelong friend, and she is a person with a lot of intelligence and one of the wisest people I know. I finished my career on a squad consisting of David Sterritt, an All-American, world champion, and Hall of Fame member. Dave was an excellent coach as well, who had a unique way of analyzing shooting and a good guy to shoot with to straighten out your shooting problems. I replace one of the funniest people I've ever shot with, or known for that matter. Connie Place, All-American, ladies world champion, Hall of Fame member, and a generous host. And last but not least, Jimmy Reese. I was hoping Jimmy'd be here tonight, but I didn't see him. Great squad member and a good guy to share a sip of Maker's Mark with. Now, these are all the people who made the sport of skeet shooting more than just a sport for me. Lastly, a huge thank you and appreciation for all the people who dedicate themselves and have given back what they can to make the NSSA a great place to be for all of us. And one final thought about tonight's Ray Boler Award winner. If you look up the word generosity in the dictionary, you will see a picture of John Howe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. All right, I want to congratulate, of course, Andrea and Jason and Rick and also Mr. Howe. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this year. Congratulations to all the inductees. Thank you all for coming. And we got one more gun tomorrow. Dreams can come true. Hope to see you guys later. Good night.